Hi, everyone, and welcome back to We Can Do This. My name is Julie, and I am the hostess of this live stream every Saturday Eastern Time, 4 o'clock. And welcome to We Can Do This. And every Saturday, we talk about topics that are kind of self-help topics. Some of them are deeper than others. But sometimes I choose to keep it a little lighter. And today's not a real deep one, but it's one that I know we can all relate to, and it's one that I was interested in. So I finally did some research, and I was really kind of excited to do this one today. But in that being said, we're all in the middle of a holiday weekend. I hope everybody had a great weekend and a safe one, especially. And before I begin, I do want to give a shout out to all of the emergency responders, all of those who are serving in the armed forces, nurses, doctors, everybody who has to work this weekend to help keep us safe and be there if we need help. They are the true heroes of our time. And today and for this weekend, I very much salute you. Thank you so much for your service. It's always appreciated. I know you may not hear it enough, but please know it is. So with that being said, I want to remind everybody, we're going to be talking about information overload today. But before I begin, please remember to subscribe. I've gotten some new subscribers these past few weeks, and I thank you very much. It's very exciting for me. And remember to give me that thumbs up. I love seeing that. It's very much appreciated. So let's get started on talking about some information overload, shall we? And I think we're all a little familiar with this topic right now. But really, what is it? In the official definition of what it is information overload is when a system shows or even stops because the input of knowledge is too large for it to process. Now, that could be in reference to a computer, but it could also be in reference to up here, people, our overload, our equipment, and I know that we're all experiencing it right now. I mean, it's hard not to be overwhelmed by it all. Information can be a very valuable thing. It can be a very wonderful thing, but it can also be a really big curse sometimes for us, and let's face it, in the world today, there are just so many avenues that are coming at us, from the right, from the left, from the back, from the front, and our brain just gets in that overload. And, I did read that, a good portion, of the public feels overloaded because there's so many ways that it comes at us these days. We're all feeling it, we're all seeing it, and they're saying it's more common in people who work with the internet. And I find that very easy to believe. I mean, the internet, it's a wide open world to all of us. And, while not everybody, certain groups of people choose to not be on the internet, sometimes I envy them. The majority of us are. And, some of the causes, that can come from this is, look at the amount of information that's available to us everywhere. It's everywhere on all different types of things. And, they're saying that by 2025, the world is going to be able to produce 463 billion gigabytes of data in one day. One day. That's a lot of gig. That's a lot of gig. I mean, even though it's global, that's huge. That's a lot. So no wonder we're feeling the way we are. And, let's face it, the way that we consume information today, oh, good grief. It's just unbelievably off the cuff, off the charts. Okay, let's get down to it here. We've got computers. Okay, we've got computers, which of course has the internet, right? But they also have email, which includes both email at home and it includes email in our work environment. We also have our phones. Gotta love those mobile phones. Tell me they're not addictive. And you get text messages on them too, but you can also research on the internet. You have apps, 4 billion types of apps that are all over the place. Then we still have our snail mail. Let's not forget about the snail mail, because in snail mail, not only do we get the mail that are for us, we get that wonderful junk mail, just like spam and email. Gotta love it. And then, of course, we have radio, we have TV, and the news. Can't forget the news. Those sensationalists who just love being as full of drama as possible just to get our attention and, get our viewership. Ugh. And then we cannot forget print media, right? We still got magazines. We got newspapers, and if you're even going to a couple of these different resources on a daily basis, no wonder we're getting overloaded, right? And then with everything that's coming at us, then there's a challenge of figuring out what's credible, what's important, and what is actually what we're looking for. What's important for us, what's important to us, rather than through all the gobbledygook that comes our way. It's challenging to figure out what's legit and what isn't, and what's drama filled and what's actually, fact or fiction. So, I think the next thing I want to talk about goes a little bit beyond, explanation, but I still want to touch on it because, why is it important to avoid it? Some people have no problem with handling it. I know I've had my issues with information overload because of the job that I do at my work and, at home as well. But what does it affect? Why is it so important that we be concerned about it and take a look at it? Well, it affects our productivity. We all want to be efficient in what we do. We all want to be productive. I know I do, at what I do. But I think we've all had those days, where you go into the work environment or even at home in the evenings where you have families and you're running the kids around and, your wife has things and your partner has things going on and the family's just going 20 different directions. And then the next thing you know, it's time to go to bed and start all over again. But we've all had those days also where we go into work and everything's just bombarding you. You've got the disruptions. You're trying to look at your emails. You're in Microsoft Teams meetings or, you're just constantly going. And some days, and I know a lot of us have experienced this, where some days you just walk out of work and go, what a wasted day. This was not productive at all. When you have all this information coming at you and you have distractions coming at you, you just can't get anything done. And it's really frustrating to have days like that. And another thing is it really takes away from our clarity and our focus. It's really, really stressful. Hey, there goes the neighbors. It's really, really stressful because we don't have that clarity and focus. I know I get very frustrated when there's rushes going on and crises and there's 5 different ones and everybody thinks their crisis is more important than somebody else's and should be priority. It gets really frustrating. And I have information coming at me from all different sides. It is so hard to be focused. I get stressed out and it's frustrating. And it's really, really hard, to be, have that clarity that you really need to focus on what really is vitally important. And then you have the quality of your decisions. Okay, when you're getting all this information hitting you from one side and the other, the information has a tendency to get very muddled and it all starts to run together. It's very hard to keep issues separate, one from the other. And whenever you have this huge pile of information in front of you, it slows down the capability you have to make good, solid decisions. It prevents you from finding the best solution. Whenever you get to that point where you have this big ball in front of you and it's all just moving very, very fast, it's really, really hard to find the best solution and really get down to the best decision that you can make. And the final thing is communication. Being clear in your communication. And I've done this and it's happened to me. In fact, I've had some of my followers tell me that whenever I've done too much research and I have too much information, that I tend to repeat myself because I have so much in front of me and they get very overwhelmed and when I'm repeating myself, they just get very bored and it takes away from the points that I'm getting across, want to get across. So I'm trying to work on that and not do as much research, even though I still do. But you have to be careful with how much information you share, because it can really, your information can become very convoluted, especially when you're trying to communicate it to somebody else. So what are some tips? What are some things that we can do to make it easier for us to not feel this way? To have that clarity, to have the focus, to communicate better with others, and to really concentrate on the information that we really need to be productive and efficient in our lives. Well, the first thing, and I think this is a big thing that a lot of us forget because we're so programmed to it now, and we're just so used to it because it's just now the way everyday life is. And what we need to remember is we are in control of the information coming at us, and a lot of times the information that's coming at us doesn't even apply to us. We have to remember we can make the choice to not consume knowledge. And we're going to mention a couple things here, but we don't have to go to social media sites. We don't have to answer text messages right away. We don't have to watch the news and watch 5 different channels of it. And we don't have to read article after article after article, which is the same we're hearing here and maybe somewhere else. We are in control of what comes at us. And I think that's big, because I think a lot of us forget that we are in control. And then there's another thing that you can do, which I haven't done, but it's recommended, is, and we've talked about other topics on here where, they tell you make notes. If you're feeling like you're overwhelmed and you just can't figure it out, it might be the information overload and you're just not recognizing it. Start to write it down. What are you watching? Are you watching 5 different news channels in an hour and a half? Are you clicking back and forth, getting the same stories, and some are more dramatized than others? Track it down. Write it down in front of you. Have something tangible that you can look at so that you can understand what the heck is going on, so you can address it and help yourself. And before we actually address the information and reach out to it, we need to understand exactly what we're looking for. Because if we don't have an idea of what we're looking for in particular or something specific, and you reach out and you're just looking for something general, what's going to happen is you get all of this other, information that does not pertain to you, is something you don't want to hear. It's not something you want to read or you're interested in. And it's just wasting your time, and it's wasting your resources that you have in here. We need to know and understand it, what we're looking for, so that we're not wasting time on irrelevant information. And I think the other thing we need to do is we need to stop looking at so many resources, which can come from just being very general about things. Make a list, because I have to tell you from the internet perspective, it can be very addictive. And I know, speaking from being a buyer, I can tell you that whenever I'm in a situation where I need to find an alternative vendor for a part where it's become critical, where our current vendor can't supply us, I don't have time, to look at the entire internet over. I have to narrow down what I'm looking for. And I have to be as efficient as possible. And if I'm just looking and not narrowing it down, I don't have that time to waste. People need answers from me. So I have to really, really concentrate on not looking at too many resources, because it's going to eventually distract me from what I actually need to do. And, you can start reading one article and it says maybe something that you say, that's kind of interesting. And it takes you to another level, another article. That has happened to me so many times. And Dan, thank you so much, because I'm glad I'm not the only one guilty of this. I have done this so many times. And you have to regroup, you have to refocus, it can just take you down a path, and make that list if you need to, and after you start getting into this funk of this overload. What you need to do is restrict yourself to only those sources that you know to be reliable and factual and legit. And they suggest to narrow it down to 2 sources only. Find 2 sources of information that you're looking for that you know have been consistent in being reliable. And avoid wasting your time on other ones that just have very unnecessary information in them. I call it avoiding the quagmire. Don't get into that. And definitely, be kind to yourself. Like I said, this is something that you can control. We can control this. I think we just forget to do it, but we can. Be kind to yourself and back up from it. And once you find that, you maybe find an article or, even on the news, you see something that maybe interests you, that doesn't mean you have to watch the whole show. Or that doesn't mean you have to watch 4 other resources for the same information that's just being repeated in a different way. When you find an article or something, skim it. You can do it with TV shows too. You can definitely do it. You watch it for a couple of minutes. If you think it's going to interest you or you just don't want to hear it, just shut it off. Turn it off. In an article, stick to the key points. Just skim on it. Don't read the whole thing and waste your time. Skim on a couple things. And if it sounds like from just skimming, it's something that your time is worth to put into further, then that's what you do. Then you can get into it further and spend more quality time in finding what you're looking for. And another thing you can do to save time is to subscribe to summary emails or newsletters. Now, I personally don't do this, only because with what I do, being a buyer, I don't really need those types of services, but I can see where other jobs and other individuals, this could be very helpful, especially at home. I could see where it would be very helpful. These are services that all they do is just give basic short updates on ongoing events, things going on in the world globally. And that can help you. It just gives you the facts. There's no sweetness to it. There's no extent of it. They're not interviewing 10 people off the street, who have nothing to do with what's going on. They just want to put opinions out there just to put time on the clock, which are ridiculous. Just get those short updates and keep it smooth and to the point. Short, sweet. That's what they say, right? And the next one is a big one. Okay. Because I've actually done this before, but I know a lot of people live and, can't live without their cell phones. Cell phones are a great thing. Don't get me wrong. They're great. They can help you be more efficient. They can be good for information. However, I can tell you between text messages, notifications, emails, blah, blah, blah. My phone is, and everybody else's phone I know is on all day long. We get bombarded all day long at work with all the same things. Then we come home and we're getting bombarded all over again with the non-work stuff. And, there is nothing wrong. There is no reason for you to feel guilty. Turn off the notifications. Don't get in the email on clockwork all the time. Disable your phone. When you get home and you need some downtime, or you want to go to an event, or you want to do something with your friends, this drives me nuts. When a bunch of us go out and everybody's spending so much time on their cell phones. If I wanted to text them, I would have done it from home and not went to the expense of going out. When you're with other people, the whole reason you go is because you want to be with other people, not get bombarded by information and text messages and emails. You can do that anytime. Take the time for yourself. There is no guilt and no shame in turning off the cell phone, closing down the laptop, shutting down your computer. Shut it down. I know I've had to do it, and I have no regrets whatsoever in doing it. So no guilt. Just remember you can do it. The other thing you can use, we got filters and we got blocks on our phones. And I can tell you, I use blockers all the time. I love it. It can stop unwanted advertisements from coming through. It can disrupt your concentration. Excuse me, got a cough here. And you can put filters on so that you're not getting stuff from social media sites, which drive me totally bonkers. You know, use them as well. I got to get a drink here, guys. Better. Okay. So use them as a resource to help filter out all the junk that comes to you. You know, it's just like throwing away junk mail in the garbage. Same thing. Now, the final thing, which I think is big, and it kind of ties into turning off your phone, is sometimes you just need to run away from it. You see, today I'm on my deck. Beautiful day in Western PA. We've had a pretty good weekend. We're very lucky. I'm so sorry. But getting away from all of it. I know that there are people, friends of mine, they have cabins in the mountains and they go up there for a reason. It's because there's no TV up there. The phones don't work up there. You don't have access to newspapers unless you want to. And it helps you regain your focus and your mental state. You go up there for the peace and quiet. I love coming out to my deck. I'm sitting here. It's a little windy today, but the breeze is very nice because it's a little humid. I'm hearing the birds chirp. Very nice. Very soothing. Very comforting. So if you have to run, by all means, run. Go. Get away from it all. You know, don't feel ashamed to do it. We all need that. My God, I am so sorry. Look, I'm getting another drink here. Okay, so running, those are 10 things that we can do to get away from information overload. But always remember, you're in control. Don't let that information control you, because that's what's happening. That's what happened to me. Don't let that happen to you. So there's my take on information overload, how it happens, what it affects, and what tips we can take to help us to avoid it and get away from it. So with that being said, it's time for my teaser for next week. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a while too. And I decided it's time. I'm going to talk about the weather and how it affects our mood and our energy. So Mother Nature, watch out. Here I come next week. And once again, please do not forget to subscribe and like. I'm so sorry. I appreciate everybody who subscribes, gives me the thumbs up. Like I said, I'm getting new subscribers. I'm very excited. Every time I see a new subscriber, it just makes my day. And I hope the topics I'm talking about, you're finding some help and support there. And that being said, I got in a little bit of trouble last week, and by rights, I forgot to do something very important at the end of my broadcast. And my best friend Tina called me out on it. Thank you, Tina. You were right. I blew it. But I'm not going to blow it this week because I did not forget after being scolded. So here it is. Never forget. We can do this. We got this. I can and I will. So will you. So with that being said, have a great rest of the weekend. Have a wonderful and safe week next week. And until next time, thank you so much for joining me. Take care. And hope you're having a great weather. We are too.